too powerful. They wrote that in and they still couldn't get it passed because the American people at that time did not believe that that government could be checked. So they came back with the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights. And when they got that first 10 amendments, the 10th one says that every power not specifically granted in this Constitution is reserved for the states. And that's the one that got the amendment. They checked that power one more time in that, those Bill of Rights. They checked the power of the federal government that they could get people to sign off. All of the colonies began to sign and say, okay. Well, in the past 40 or 50 years, we've kind of forgotten that. We've been a government of the people, by the people, for the people. We just forgot by the people. We, you and me. The other side didn't forget it. They've been busy, they've been active, they've been building hurdles, they've been building fences, they've been building laws, they've been bringing lawsuits to stop every form of human activity. So to put this in context, what is going on today, what your commissioners have put into place, what your sheriff is standing there saying that I will implement, is something that no one else did. Other people didn't do that. The San Joaquin Valley, about a year and a half ago out in California, you know that place. That's where your vegetables used to come from. 80% of the nation's vegetables used to come from the San Joaquin Valley. Some environmental group brought a lawsuit and said, well, we've got the Delta smelt, a little 2-inch minnow or whatever, and we need to keep it alive. And some judge agreed with them, and he took all the water away from the agriculture, shut down the entire San Joaquin Valley. 27,000 jobs left that valley that day, and no one stood in the cold wind to say this is not right. No one stood there to say enough is enough. No one stood there to say these are our jobs and our people, and we're going to watch out for them. They did not have a county commission that would stand up and say we're going to chart a new course. So understand that gives you a knowledge about what we have standing behind me here today. People of great courage. My friend and former Chief of Staff Bob Carter over here on the side. Bob Carter was here when we came up and sat in Cloudcroft in the city council chambers and talked with the Forest Service saying, you know, you're letting all these trees die. You're not going to spray them, but you at least need to be cutting them down. We brought in people who gave them testimony that when a tree dies to this level, then it's not going to come back. The Forest Service sat right here in your community saying if there was one green needle left on a tree, they would not touch it. They would not cut these trees down. Bob Carter sat with me in this same room over here when we had the Lincoln National Forest discussing the fire over in the Capitans. And I said, why did you let that thing burn out of control for 100,000 acres? They said it was too expensive when it started. It was on 13 acres, just like this. I said, too expensive, you spent $5 million. You're telling me for $5 million you couldn't have put out a 13-acre fire? And he hung his head and looked down at his feet and said, well, we just didn't think about it like that. I'm telling you, that's the reason that our founding fathers did not want Washington running your business. They knew. Side of the aisle that say we're here to protect the habitat from the spotted owl, and if you go out and start cutting any trees, you're going to mess up the habitat. I just refer you back to that Dan Rather BS comment. Yeah. Take a drive over to Ruidoso from here, and you're going to drive through the Mescalero Apache Reservation. You're going to drive through a reservation where they have taken their forest in hand, and they have cut trees down to the number that this tree. The spotted owl is moving there from the Lincoln because in their forest, the spotted owl can jump off the trees, get flying speed, fly down, catch its prey, and then come back up and roost. In other words, the habitat is right where we've been cutting trees. The habitat is wrong where we have it. But tell me about the habitat when we burn these forests down. Right down south of here, I've been coming here since the 1950s. It's the only vacation my family ever could afford. Dad would pile all 6 of us. We'd leave the oil fields, drive up here during the day, and drive home at night. That was our vacation. Once in a while, when we really had a lot of money, we'd ease on over to the White Sands. But mostly, it was here. There's a forest fire that burned back in the 50s, and you still don't have pine trees there because chemical changes happen in the soil when you get hot forest fires. We're never going to see many of these forests grow back because of the way our Forest Service is managing the trees. I understand that it's not supposed to be that way. I see a guy in the audience who was the first to tell us in the legislature that western forests weren't that way. If you look in history, look at the photographs from 100 years ago, you'll see that our forests were thin, 50 trees per acre, maybe 75. They were savanna lands. See, hot fires would burn through every 8 years. They would burn down scrub brush. They burned down the small and weak trees, and they'd leave just a healthy, robust one. The tree rings will show us that every 8 years. Well, we began to move in and put houses in around the forest where we started putting out the fires. But we started logging. So we kept the forest in the right density. No one here today is advocating clear cutting, but I'm telling you we need to reduce this forest to 50 to 75 trees an acre, or it is going to continue to burn down throughout the rest of our history. We talked with the Forest Service 3 or 4 years ago about cloud crop being extremely dangerous. What happens if we get a fire here? We've got one road in and one road out. Now I carry around as my screensaver on the BlackBerry. You can't see it from here, but I'll just hold it up. This is Ruidoso about 3 to 4 months ago when it's burning. It's got fires everywhere. Every spark was burning around 40, 50 knot winds, blowing sparks around. Every time one touched this timber box dry forest, it was erupting into a fire. My grandson said, "Looks like hell." I didn't know exactly how I knew that, but I took the word for it. So the first thing we're doing here is we're taking care of the safety of the community. Again, you need to salute these county commissioners who took that into mind. You also need to remember people like Howard Hutchinson, Mike Nicholson, and a group of other people who fought to get that Senate bill passed several years ago that gave the county the right to take over and manage the lands in case of emergency. That is state law. State law or no state law, there haven't been many counties that have done this, that have taken this step. Again, just think about that. Be sure and offer these people the support they need as they go through the next days and weeks, because this fight isn't over. What we're doing today is the first step. They're going to try to log 80,000 acres around this area, and they need to do that. But think about the jobs. You know, we're dying for jobs in this country right now. It's time for us to remember what this country was built on. This country was built on the resources. Think about the jobs that are going to start here by this action today. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut down a few trees. People sawing those trees down is one layer of work. Somebody's going to come out with a forklift and they're going to load them on those trucks. That's another layer of work. Somebody's going to drive those trucks down the hill and carry those logs into that mill. The truck drivers are the third line of work. When it gets to the mill, they're going to be milled. That's the fourth level of work. After the mill, somebody's going to market those to Home Depot or somebody else. I don't know exactly who. That's the fifth level of work. Those things then got to be trucked from here to where they're going to be sold in the stores. That's the sixth level of work. And then finally, when they're sold on the floor of that showroom floor, that's 7 levels of work. You wonder why our jobs are dying here? It is because our government is killing the jobs here. Our government is conducting a war on the jobs, and we need to reverse that. Bob Carter was also involved with me in a fight, because what the Forest Service tells us is that there's not enough infrastructure. We want people to do this, but there's no infrastructure left. I'm sorry, when you don't give people contracts to go in and cut, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to close down. Marita just read that article where that big new bill was opening up, and they can't even get enough material to operate it. We've experienced that same thing here. Bob Carter and I sat in a room, fighting the Forest Service trying to get 9 million board feet to keep the Mescalero mill open. It was the last operating mill in New Mexico, full time, 100 jobs right here. The Forest Service wouldn't give us 9 million board feet. And if I remember correctly, the Forest Service at that time was growing 50 million board feet a year. We weren't even keeping up with the new growth, and yet they would not do it. The people who have been running our forest have had a very biased view of our country. They don't care about the jobs. They will tell you they do not have to care about the jobs. They don't care about the economic impact of anything they do. They don't care on the effect in your lives. They don't care the effect in this community's life. And they don't care about the budget and the job situation in this country because they have got their heads down following some regulation that tells them they've got the right to put you out of your house, your home, and everything else. And it is time for us to say enough is enough. Enough. Our country is flat and broke. Let me tell you the very difficult thing about this. We are spending $3.6 trillion this year, and we are bringing in revenue from taxes from you good people, $2.1 trillion. We're spending $3.6, bringing in $2.1. That's a shortage of $1.5. Even us guys from the east side can figure that out. Your family couldn't operate that way. Your business couldn't operate that way, and the federal government can't operate that way. That's the reason that our debt level was downgraded just recently. We cannot pay our bills back. Now, people say that we're borrowing that money, but let me correct that misconception. We were borrowing that money when we had $300 billion deficits. We were borrowing $300 billion because China could lend us $100 billion. England, Japan, other countries could lend us that much. But now we're running $1.5 trillion deficits, and there is no economy in the world, none. China's economy is $6 trillion. There's no economy in the world that can lend us $1 trillion. Do you know where we're getting our money today to operate the government on? China! We're printing the money. We can't get enough from China. We're printing the money. And when we print money, that takes away the value of everything you own.
That's right.
So our government today cannot borrow enough money to operate